talk about something called survivor's guilt. You might have heard the word, you might not. It is a very, very common feeling that is found very often with first responder like Zaka or Hatsala, people that see people who have died or could not prevent people from dying and they feel guilty. You see it also firefighters, people who have a family member who died of a genetic inherited disease, but they themselves are fine, but someone else in the family died, like the genetic went to this person but not to them. You find it also among people who watch the suffering of other people and they themselves are not suffering, so they feel very guilty. You also find it in people that have received a transplant, like a heart or a kidney from or some kind of organ from someone else who died. So the other person died, and because the other person died, now they're alive. So there's a guilt that is very often felt. So I like to explore this because it is a difficult situation. And there's one thing that I want to explain from all the examples that I gave you is that it's not rare, it's very common, and it happens a lot. If you're having that feeling, you should know you're not the only one. People who are having combat experience and seen people die, they don't talk enough about it. People don't talk about survivor guilt. And so when it happens, people are not aware of it. So that's why I want to talk about it a little bit. The first thing that I would like to say is that in any difficult circumstance, healing takes time. That's how it is in life. When there is grieving, a loss of something important, it takes time to recover from it. Whether there is a loss of a loved one, even giving up a dream, that's also a loss. Some people experience that loss when they have a pet and their pet is like their child. People have a traumatic experience. All of these requires time for healing. It's very important to understand that time is a necessary ingredient to healing. There should be no pressure to heal, to get it over, to put it aside, to finish with it. There should not be such a pressure. It is a good thing to work on it as soon as possible, on the pain, and to look into it and to integrate it, but not to push it under the carpet and ignore it, because anything that you ignore and you push it to the side or under something will fester, will grow, and it's going to affect the body of the person, not only the spirit, but the body of the person. So it's very important to deal with it. The sooner you deal with it, the less impact it has later on. So I'm not saying that a person has to get over it right away. What I'm saying is that the healing process, the sooner the healing process is starting, the better off you are. It's a good thing to work on it as soon as possible so it doesn't get entrenched inside the heart and the mind and the body of the person who is suffering. But at the same time that you work on it, you don't put a time frame. You don't put a date for the healing to happen. You don't say, I should get over this in 2 weeks, or I should be fine in a couple months. There is no such a thing as putting a time for the healing. You take the time that you need, and everybody's different, and there should be no pressure. So it's a process. And as with any growth and any healing, there's a layer, and then you finish with that, you go to another layer, and then there is another layer that peel at each one in their own time. Survival guilt can provoke a lot of anger. Travis Williams was a Marine, a Lance Corporal in Iraq, in the Iraqi war. So he was in a truck with his whole unit, and they were about to start moving. There were a couple trucks. They started moving, and as soon as they started moving, somebody said to him, "Hey, you need to go into the other truck behind." Got off the truck, don't ask questions, don't just obey orders. Orders are orders. He got off the truck, says to his friend, "See you on the flip side." And he went to the truck behind him. Shortly afterwards, the first vehicle, the first truck, drove over an enormous buried bomb, and whoever was in that truck died. 7 years later, he's still thinking about it. He has questions. What happened? This was my unit. I went in the truck with them. Why was I taken out? He can't find an answer. What could have happened that day? He could have been on the first truck and died. The people who survive feel they are less worthy than the people who died. They always feel like the other guy was so much better. He was so good. And there is a tremendous guilt to be alive or to be home while the other guys are dead. There's a tremendous guilt that I'm coming back to my family and the other men, their wife is a widow. The children are orphans. Why? And you can't figure out an answer. And you can rack your brain again and again and again, which is a typical thing of survivor guilt, is to go into a wheel and thinking and think and think without going anywhere. But the thoughts are there, the questions are there. And not only that, the wives and the children of the dead person, they didn't deserve that the father or the husband died. So judgment set in. What is right? Who should live? And who should die? And that's in the perspective of the survivor. And he can't find any answer. The survivor doesn't think he should be alive. The survivor really feels guilty about being alive when the other one died. And he feels the other one should be alive because they were great guys. They were great leaders. They were great friends. They were pure individuals. Such good character traits. They were loving. They were caring. They were fun. They were dedicated to their mission. And so the survivor also feels responsible to keep the memory of the person who died. Whether it's photos and displays, or naming their children after their brother in arms, or wearing a bracelet with the name of their friend on it, or a necklace with the name on it, to keep the memory present. They don't want to forget. They're afraid to forget. They're afraid not to feel the pain because they feel maybe it's their fault. And this is the kind of thinking that is going on. It's a lot of pain. People keep thinking, keep busy, and they'll do anything not to think about this. But the thoughts keep coming back. And this is part of this survivor's guilt syndrome. It's a psychological condition that happens a lot. And if you don't know that this is what it is, then you're going to think, yeah, you did something wrong and, you should feel guilty. But it's something a lot of soldiers experience, especially when the death of that person kept alive the other one. Sometimes keeping the dead alive is by continuing their mission, whether it's continuing the fight, continuing the walk, or loving the way they loved, or learning, or smiling, whatever the dead person was. You want to be that person to replace, to keep them alive. So here's what the survivors think. Is think that if the dead ones cannot do it, I'm going to do it for them. I'm going to keep their flame alive. And the life of a person is changed forever when they have that. Because the bond between soldiers cannot be duplicated and cannot be found anywhere else. That bond has been broken. And life gets hard with that hole in the heart of the person and the questions. They were the best friend in the world, and the next day they're gone. And you miss them and you feel lonely and you don't know what could replace that. How could you have a happy moment without them? You need them and they're no longer here. It is very sad. It is very hard. It is heartbreaking. And you have to go on as if nothing happened, which is also an additional hardship. So what will you do to find meaning? Basically, the survivor guilt is a feeling that a soldier or anyone else who has it feel they don't deserve what they have. How can I have it and the other one doesn't? I didn't work for that. I just got it. Why? It makes no sense. Why did he die and I didn't? And the survivors on the plane that crashed on the flight 571 in the Andes, in the mountains in 1972, they said, we survived because of them. We survived because of who they were. But in the end, the voice in your head tells you you're not good enough. They were better than you. So you try harder to fill in the void, the emptiness, and it's a strong absence that you feel. Some veterans said that the hardest part of their transition to civilian life was the survivor guilt. If they say it was the hardest part, you can see that it's a loaded subject, and please know that it happens a lot and it's very, very common. The survivor guilt is a pain. It's a pain you experience for others. It's a pain that makes you feel disconnected from your root, from what sustained you. You feel disconnected. And then it can take over your life and you disconnect from the one that want to connect with you, like your family or your other friends. Just like any trauma from a loss, there is a pain associated with love and friendship. You tell yourself, I don't want to experience that pain anymore. I want to be safe from having that pain. I'm not going to feel love. I'm not going to feel friendship anymore. I'm going to stay alone. I'm not going to take a risk again for that to happen again. I'm not going to take the risk of losing someone that is dear to me. So this feeling of fear of losing your body, your partner, it makes you retreat from living your life. It makes you want to stay safe. It wants you to make within yourself, not being exposed to other people or being close to other people. That's what you feel. But in the meantime, your wife, your parents, your children that need you, they want your love, they're not getting it. Because you are afraid that maybe sometime in the future, you imagine there could be another pain like that. You don't want to have any pain, and so you don't want to have any love and any connection. You are holding on your survivor guilt. You're holding on to the pain. And you have to understand, whoever has been in combat is a very brave human being. There is no question about it. There's nothing weak about a person who faced death and who held his dying friend in his arm. But those who make it home, carry the burden of being the one who survived. And people feel they failed their brothers. They were supposed to be there for them. They were supposed to cover them. They were supposed to protect them. And they feel they broke that promise. And there's a tremendous guilt. It doesn't mean that they did break their promise. It doesn't mean that they did something wrong. It just means that that's how they feel. And it's very painful. How do you recognize if somebody has survivor's guilt? What are the signs and what are the symptoms? The first symptoms is rumination. What is rumination? Is repeating the same thing over and over and over again, like an idea that doesn't go anywhere. It just repeats itself, ongoing, 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 without change, without any explanation, without any real discovery. It doesn't help. It's just keep on repeating. That's the first sign. Thinking about it all the time, but you can't get rid of the thoughts. When you have flashbacks of the events. Another sign are nightmares of the event, or a person is either losing appetite, doesn't want to eat, or gaining a lot of weight and eating too much. Or another sign is an increased heart rate. When you think about the event that happened, your heart rate is getting faster. Sometimes there's apathy, losing interest in anything, like the thing that you used to enjoy, you don't enjoy anymore. It's kind of a depression. There is isolating from other people, like I explained, that you don't want to take a risk of losing someone again. So said, I'm not going to connect with anyone. I'm not getting close with anyone. And so this way, I'm not taking a chance. The other thing is, which happens for a lot of veterans, is trying to escape through addiction, alcohol, drugs, whatever addiction. It's a way of not thinking about it. In some more severe cases, the survivor feels he's not worthy of being alive, of having what he has. He shouldn't have because the other one didn't have it, so why should he have it? And he feels guilty enjoying anything. He feels depressed, he feels anxious, and sometimes even has suicidal ideation. That can be a survivor's experience. And this is just some of the signs that tell you that it's happening, because people who have it, they really think they might have done something wrong when they didn't, but they don't know that this is what it's a common thing that happens all the time. Some survivors experience one symptoms or one sign, and some people have a whole bunch of signs that I just described. What would make a person more inclined to have this survivor guilt than others? It could be a prior history of trauma, or another mental health condition, a loss of social support, people that they're coming home but they don't have anybody helping them emotionally or socially. And there is also some people that are very prone to this, is the people that are in general very responsible people. People that are very responsible, it's a very good quality. But in this case of a person being at war and seeing their friend or their comrade in arms die, and they might feel that, without this being true, they might feel that they're responsible for it and they take the blame. So usually, like I said, to be responsible is a very good thing, but it also can make people more prone to survivor guilt. Again, whoever has been in combat is a very brave person. They need to be brave, not just on the battlefield, but also when they come back. In other words, the war doesn't stop just because you left the battlefield, because what you've experienced, you take with you when you go back home. How do you heal from the survivor guilt? There is the right after, and then there is the later. What do we have to be careful when we're talking about a person who is experiencing this survivor guilt? First of all, focusing on healing the body through resting. For months and months, the body has been used and abused, I should say. It's not, I don't know if it's a good term, but the body has been pushed to the limit of endurance. And when you do that for a long time, at some point when it recovers, it's like shut down in order to quiet and come back little by little to a regular level. Focusing on healing the body with enough rest is very important. And it's also extremely important, and I think that I'm going to make another video on that, about the adrenaline level that were sky high rocketing during the war. And now you have to adapt to the a lower level of it. You don't see anything, but you do feel, and the people outside of you don't know what's going on because they're not in your brain. So that's the first thing, focusing on healing the body by rest and with activity, because the activity is helping you process the adrenaline that was pouring into your body while you were on the front. Second, eat regular balanced diet. We are what we eat. If you're eating junk, if you're eating sugar, it's not going to help. A good thing to do is take probiotics to get the intestinal flora back to normal, to get more energy in your body and your brain. To drink enough water is also important. Most probably people who were on the front were not drinking enough. And in any case, with all the efforts, the sweating and everything, the body gets dehydrated. So it's very important to replenish that. Another healing process is to connect with someone you trust every single day, possibly even twice a day. This is extremely healing. That is why I recommend for people either that they're in unit or experience the same thing or have something in common that they can share and not afraid to talk about it and to describe what happened. And when somebody talks, they know what the other people know what they're talking about. It's very important to belong to a group. You can have a support group, Facebook or Instagram or whatever, social media, Telegram, WhatsApp group. It's very, very important. This is absolutely crucial, that if you cannot get in touch face to face, at least the minimum is to belong to a group where you can express yourself and you can support, because nobody else will understand what you went through like the other people that also went through it. It's a huge, huge thing. A lot of people, they used to have a cup of coffee, and maybe when they were on the front line, they had energy drinks or whatever it is. Do not increase caffeine at this point. Maybe you have 1 cup in the morning or something, but do not have more than that. Why am I saying this? They use during combat, when the person is on constant stress, there is a huge amount of adrenaline that has been released in the body to help the body have the energy it needs to keep on fighting and be efficient. So this huge amount of adrenaline is released into the body. In fact, there is an extra production of new adrenaline receptors in the brain to accommodate for all the extra adrenaline produced at the time of stress, which is basically 24/7 for months. Now, these receptors in the brain are supposed to receive all the adrenaline that you needed, because at that time you needed it. So these receptors are now, they're created, they've been there for the job, but now the job is done and you have all these receptors that are ready to take in adrenaline, and it's not coming because you're not in combat anymore. You can allow yourself to relax, but the empty receptors in the brain, they're going crazy. On top of that, you're taking caffeine, that's going to get even worse. I might make another video about hormone therapy for people experiencing really low levels after being in combat zone. But right now, just remember that you need to rebalance the adrenaline and not increase that level. And it takes time, but do not increase the caffeine. Do not increase the alcohol. Do not take alcohol, because the alcohol affects your sleep and it affects your heart rate. And when you're trying to be in good shape, increase your heart rate and not sleeping is not a good idea. Don't try to suppress the emotions. At a minimum, give your emotions a feeling. And remember that the only way to get through an emotion is to go through it, to let it happen, have the support or the strength of knowing that any emotion comes and goes and it's not going to last. So you know that even though it's coming, you also know it's leaving. It's like everything in life. As we are alive, we are also dying. So as much as the emotion comes, it is also leaving. And you gotta know that so that you don't panic. When the emotion comes, let it go through you like a wave and ride that wave. Or maybe you go under a little bit and you swallow some water, but you know you're eventually going to be floating. Be patient, let it go. Do not try to suppress the emotion. Another thing is to pay attention. How do you come down from this survival guilt? Pay attention to something that is very material, whether it's your breath, your feelings of the chair, the position, your muscle, your body. You can also touch something and feel what it feels like. You can also rub your fingers. Just keep on touching your fingers and know that these are your fingers and you're feeling them. You can do breathing work. Most of the time, the things that you can touch or you can do something with are taking away from the emotional aspect and bringing you back into a more grounded state. Try to do something that you usually enjoy. Joy breaks all barriers. If you feel joy, you cannot feel the pain at the same time. Be patient and allow this time to heal. Your body has been on an overdrive for months. So give yourself at least the same amount of time to heal than it took for time to accumulate. Make a chart and write down. Write on the chart. Who is responsible for what? Who decides when a person is born? Who decides when a person dies? Who runs the show? Who gives life? Who takes back life? When? Where? How? Write it down. I doubt it's you. Ask for help. Don't think you have to do it alone. If you think that people around you do not understand you, talk to them. Give them a chance to understand you and connect with people that have gone through the same. They're your brothers. Take care of them. That is very healing. The best way to heal is to help other people. As you're helping other people, it will help you. It will give you in life connection because you're connecting with the other person. It will give you meaning because you know you have a goal is to help the other person. It will give you some kind of change because it's not going to be repeating the same thing, but you're going to hear what the other person is doing or what's happening somewhere else if they live somewhere else. It will give you a sense of accomplishment. Helping someone else is the best cure for many, many ailments. Please be in touch with your fellow soldiers. Please keep that bond that is so precious. Keep it up. Do not let someone be alone. Do not let someone think that nobody cares about him. Do not let someone think that now that they're injured and they don't have legs, so people are not going to call them because they cannot walk. Do not let someone who has been maimed and can't drive, do not let them not go out with you. What you do for other people will come back to you many folds. Please take care of your brothers.